The story is about Lee JaHa, a talented martial artist but considered a madman because he was obsessed with becoming a martial arts god. After being killed by a demonic cult, he was reincarnated into another world and a journey. Revenge to become the strongest martial artist begins. A majestic landscape covered by layers upon layers of towering mountains. Below is a deep abyss and a certain man thinking. This place made the male protagonist remember all the nostalgia about the past. At that time he wished to become a strong god of war. The feeling in his heart is always boiling when he wants achieving noble things. Although he was always laughed at by people because of his strange personality, Lee JaHa did not care but only devoted himself to practicing his martial arts day and night to reach his dream. That I want. Even if I can't become a god of war, I still think that being austere about everything for so long is enough, but now I understand that it will never be enough. This contemplation was broken up by strangers. A leader spoke up to remind Lee JaHa of a few things. Don't waste any more time and hand over the heavenly pearl you stole from your religion. This man in black is the most loyal subordinate of the leader of the Demon Sect. He feels like he hates the story he just mumbled to himself. You ran away until now I have compliments but only that's it. Lee JaHa understood what their purpose was so he pulled that object out from inside him. You mean this thing is a heavenly pearl, right? Because he was free and didn't know what to do, he was about to drop it, but the other group got scared and wanted to say a few words. But the male lead didn't care, he just reflected on his life. He is a genius in the battle of wits, master of tricks, king of tactics and god of lies. A great saint of deception and even more impossible to fall into the trap of love. At the same time, he is also a crazy good guy and is especially good in the light. Taijutsu. That magician interrupted about the clichés he just finished. The reason you've never fallen in love is because no one wants to like a crazy person. You girls, everything next to you is arranged by us and everyone in the world knows about it. Hearing this truth, the male lead felt very angry and he planned to drop that heavenly pearl to let him know. But the other guy continued to apologize for talking too much. Then he also remained silent to listen to his confession a little more. To become a god of war, I went crazy and worked hard to hone my character. Body. And today what I receive in return is the title of demoniac. The people of the demonic cult are now very impatient because they don't understand and have headaches. They raised their voices again. When asked if he had finished his last wish, Lee JaHa still did not agree. He continued to talk. After the recent battles, everything became meaningless with the journey we went through to bring justice. Reason for this world. Aren't you the enemy of the entire political sect and even more advanced than me? That's why they put the crazy demon at the top of the wanted list. Lee JaHa immediately put the heavenly pearl in front of the crowd's eyes. Once again he threatened that we should throw this thing down. The expression of anger and discomfort was already deep on the black-clothed man's face. In the end, I stopped talking nonsense and got straight to the point. It seems like the way you had to be humiliated to this extent. This item must be very important. I killed more than 100 elite warriors of the Demon Sect while being chased. You really endured it well. Hearing some criticism, he immediately responded. I think just because you open your mouth doesn't mean you can slander anything. Feeling the killing intent radiating around, Lee JaHa knows now is the time to end this nonsense battle. But before that, maybe we should drop this because it's not very good to keep holding on to it. Once again, the other guy started sweating and also softened his voice. Okay, I'm sorry for that. Already attitude, can we negotiate a bit? Hearing the 2 words of negotiation, he became annoyed and then shouted loudly. Chasing me for days without letting you rest at all with that net of heaven and earth? It's because of you that I can't even eat or sleep at all. Sure enough, while they were running away, they did everything that made Lee JaHa so busy that he didn't even have time to deal with his sadness. So that's our goal, that's why we set a trap for you. This time, he was too impatient to give in. What the hell are you trying to do? I'm just calculating for you. You just received a very painful blow. After speaking, he stuffed the heavenly pearl into his mouth and swallowed it whole. The gurgling sound of swallowing continued to break the silent space. The wind blew loudly. Henchman of the demon religion, now he was emitting a lot of colorful energy because of the scene he had just seen. Not only that, but he also appeared scared because he knew that if he couldn't bring it back, he would surely die. The male lead continued to make sarcastic comments to make him angry. It was surprising because I feel like its taste is like a ripe peach. The other guy started talking loudly because he still couldn't believe that he actually ate it. Seeing the reaction of that person, my decision was that's right. It's true that there are no words to describe him, so he can't stand it anymore. This guy ordered his juniors to follow behind to rush in to capture him alive and then fish him out. Okay. Quickly tie it up so I can chop it up and return it to the leader. Receiving orders, countless assassins drew their swords and quickly approached Lee JaHa. Their numbers there were a lot of people, but he didn't feel worried. The posture of a martial artist was ready to fight back against his opponent. A few of them eagerly raised their swords to threaten. They continuously slashed at the male lead's weak points, but he only gently dodged them. Then he also gave a few villains terrible punches. They were even so incompetent that they even hit them by mistake. All his teammates. That shows that the thing Lee JaHa just used is very important to the magic religion. They all rushed at the same time, but he always dealt with them one by one. As expected of them, with the title of a crazy demon, no one can touch a single hair. The number of enemy troops is now not much, so they're showing fear. Knowing this disadvantage, the male protagonist wants to join him. He slapped them all the way to save himself. He held tightly and hit the guys nearby very hard. After one kid, the second kid cried out in pain. The remaining kids were also beaten the same way. The terrible internal attack knocked them all out. The Devil's clan was all executed in a few moves. They fell to the ground, making everyone terrified. Although there are a few left, no one wants to rush in anymore. Lee JaHa immediately called out the name of the Demon Sect's henchman. How long are you planning on letting your subordinates die instead? Lang wasted many days just to waste my strength and exhausted me until now without confronting me. Hearing that, he started to step out to confront me. If he said so, I would personally deal with you. That guy in black signaled his juniors to step back and come in front of him. What a shrinking turtle, why didn't you show up when I was still strong? Guy shouted loudly to shut up and then put all his inner strength in his hands, just wanting to strangle the male lead to death. This time, when he met a worthy opponent, he showed his strength. His mouth still did not forget to tease him to make him angry. The other guy gritted his teeth because he had been being teased so much all this time. Looking at the other person's aggressiveness, he also knew his physical condition at the moment. His energy gathering was only as making the pain from before even worse. Your hunting dog of illuminating light will have to go down alone with me. As he said that, Lee JaHa used his strength to use the iron pass to close in on the black-clothed man. Two powerful palms touched each other, emitting light that blinded everyone who saw it. Countless castles standing by and watching had their eyes blinded. Accompanied by a loud explosion, created a noise on the top of the mountain. Not only that, the ground cracked and smoke and dust spread out around it terribly. The male lead's body was knocked into the distance. Probably due to injuries from before, that's why he couldn't cope again. And that demon cultist also had to admire his opponent. It's unbelievable that that ruined body is still so strong, he's really more powerful than the others. What do I think? But when I think about it, I'm panicking as I look at Lee JaHa plunging into the abyss. He screams so loudly that it's unacceptable because if he falls down, he will be broken and unable to get his treasure. Knowing that it's time to die since I've scored, I don't care anymore. That's not bad, the leader will definitely destroy all those useless people. All of you should quickly kill yourself and follow me. With just that, Lee JaHa's voice was no longer in that guy's ears. He quickly ran to the edge of the cliff to look around and also ordered his subordinates to go down and bring back the body as evidence. At the speed he plunged down, he lost consciousness. Even though he knew he couldn't have life, he was still very satisfied because he had stolen the devil's heavenly pearl. Will the Martial Arts League know about this? Would they give me the title of God of War? I thought so, but the hour of death has come, so it's no longer important. Then Lee JaHa feels pain in his heart because of many things he hasn't done yet. Even the scent of the male lead's girlfriend hasn't been done yet. What did he know that he had to enjoy the good news so early? Then he was transported to an unknown space, Everything around him was pure white and he felt very peaceful. Then his eyes fluttered open, looking everywhere. Someone's voice rang out as a greeting. "You must be crazy to obey a demon to protect your soul, right?" An old man with white hair and beard was floating in the air, approaching him. Just by looking at him, you could tell that he was a man with terrible strength. "That's not important now, God. The pearl you just swallowed contains many souls of outstanding martial artists. Now that you have eaten it, they cannot go to heaven and will cling to your soul. If you sleep, they will wake you up, and when they eat, they will also share that feeling. Of course they will also cling to anyone who touches you." The male protagonist remained silent because he did not understand what he meant. Then he also said that the spirits would make his qigong become crazy and uncontrollable. As a dead man, the male protagonist had nothing to fear. How could qigong become crazy? If that's the case, I'd love it. The mysterious person seemed frustrated at this level of madness. Finally, he got straight to the point. Why did you swallow that heavenly pearl inside you?" Although his words were gentle, his expression and sharp eyes were enough to kill someone. He possessed power beyond his own imagination. Otherwise, if I could answer, I would probably turn into ashes. Please answer my question honestly. At that time, I swallowed it not because of greed, but just because I wanted to make sure that this guy, that Demon Sect, won't be able to eat it. When asked for a more specific reason, he replied leisurely, "I don't like him because he considers humans to be trash. If someone like him were stronger any longer, and many terrible things will happen." After listening, the old man stroked his beard with a very satisfied expression. His mouth kept repeating the nonsense reason he just gave. As expected, you have done a good deed. This answer pleases me very much. This new life is your last chance. I won't be able to help you anymore because I will have to suffer punishment." The male lead was a little curious but only received the words, "This is the best thing I can do for you. And I will give you the most wonderful gift." After speaking, his hands were clasped together and some kind of magical light radiated around. Just like that, it shot straight towards Lee JaHa while he still couldn't regain his composure. The light shot strongly. As for the body, in the blink of an eye everything went black. The scene was immediately changed back to the real world. The male lead woke up in a panic and was breathing heavily as if he was about to die. The surroundings seemed very familiar to him. The air was also very fresh, making him feel relieved. This place was Lee JaHa's childhood boarding house. Even though I know that, I still can't believe my eyes. My eyes constantly wander around all over the room. The objects and layout are not changed at all. At all. This is really my room. It seems like it's not a dream, right? There are so many thoughts in my head that want to be explained, but I can't do it. When I was in this place, I'm only somewhere around 20 years old. Thinking about this makes me panic. If so, that means we can start practicing martial arts a few years earlier than before. Once we have mastering it, I can increase my strength. Lee JaHa has understood where he is and what he will do. This time I will definitely be stronger than ever. Even if you clench your fist, you can feel a little pain. Is this a wound? Could it be that I've been beaten? Finally, I hesitantly walked outside and saw the surrounding scenery. So dilapidated. The building was completely destroyed. What does this mean? As he spoke, he also thought about the past. At that time, Lee JaHa was serving as a second in command. "Customers, I hear you're so enthusiastic about making money. What do you plan to do with it?" "I can't just say that my parents have passed away, so I've completely lost my purpose. They're just passers-by and they're just passing by. Just kidding a little bit. Actually, I dream of hearing Chaeyong sing at cherry blossoms." Some people have also heard this story, so they're taking advantage of it to discuss it very well. Yes, I'm a crazy guy. I keep wondering why I'm always so greedy for money. What a loser. I was just joking about Chaeyong, the most famous woman in Ilyong town, and that damn rumor spread. Looking at the state of this restaurant, it's true that I've returned to that time. Just thinking about it gives me a headache. Did they beat me to a pulp and destroy everything just for that reason? Thinking of this, he'll just have to see what the injuries look like for now before continuing. The male lead entered the room again and started meditating to practice. First, he had to practice the passage technique, the iron ground that I had used in my previous life. Just like that, he closed his eyes tightly to start channeling the healing energy. But immediately the inner energy in the Dantian radiated a lot. In his mind I still can't understand why there is vital energy because at that time in the past, I had not yet practiced martial arts. I don't know if it was just luck or fate. For now, ignore the strange things. Then, Lee JaHa began practicing the technique of passing through iron and earth. Just like that, he continuously focused on regulating the internal airflow inside his body. Time quickly passed faster than a dog running in the field. It was now midnight, so the space became quieter than ever. At this time, Lee JaHa woke up with his eyes wide open. The wounds from being beaten had all been healed. Although good thing, but I still have a lot of curiosity about my body now. The mysterious old man's voice echoed in my head again. This is the best thing I can do for you and this gift is wonderful. That's the best. So that's what that old man meant for me. Gradually, he also understood why he had the original energy because he had previously swallowed the devil's heavenly pearl. But the more difficult thing was that half of the original energy inside was still unable to be used. Okay. But this doesn't matter because I already have a lot of strength. Surely no one can imagine how much stronger I will be. While masturbating, my empty stomach kept growling, smoldering. So he calculated the time to visit Ilyong town once again to see how it was. After changing his clothes and fixing his hair, a while later the male protagonist arrived at the center. That place. Because it was the middle of the night, very few people went around to buy or sell. The surrounding scenery was not much different from the past. So this was very good for him to remember those things. Past events. A few guys who were eating and drinking heavily suddenly noticed Lee JaHa. He immediately recognized someone he knew, so he immediately pointed to the brother next to him. Isn't that the second guy? Of why is he still alive in that restaurant? I heard rumors that he was beaten up a few days ago, but he's still walking around healthy. What a loser. Heard all the gossip, but he still doesn't let it go. I'm sorry because those cruel guys only know how to abuse a little girl in a restaurant. But the more I think about being bullied, the more angry I become. Because there are countless. His thoughts were opposite, so he wasn't sure where to go. As soon as he regained his composure, in front of him was a place quite familiar to the male lead. He muttered in his head to think back to the things he had done. At that time, the servants were beating him up for wanting to spend a night with the first beauty Chae-young. They cursed the male lead for being stoned and promising, "I will fight in one battle so I don't dare come again." But when he held his head, he repeatedly denied that he had no bad intentions. As soon as he looked up, scornful laughter accompanied by the image of the woman in his heart appeared. Why is she looking at me like that? I didn't say anything random. Just like that, those thugs were free to torture me until they got bored. Finally, Lee JaHa was tired and returned to his house. Where I live. A few people around quickly ran out to take a look. Did you see the kid who was beaten early this morning? He was beaten to a pulp. Meanwhile, even though he was beaten to the point of pain, my whole body was damp, but I still couldn't understand why I was like this. Yes, even if I was crazy, there were times like that. This was the time when I recovered. The rules couldn't be any more perfect. It turns out that when he goes back to the past, the thing the male protagonist wants to do the most is meet Chae-young. Little second, what are you looking at? A voice came from behind. Come on, you plan to let the whole cherry blossom go down in flames, you loser. I don't think you have the courage to do that. You only know how to cry in fear. A few days ago, I saw you being beaten to death, but I'm sure you're okay now. As he said that, he moved closer and reminded him that if he was beaten to such an extent, why didn't he stay in the pub? Why are you still going out? Seeing the male lead's silence, the other guy continued to ask more questions. Why didn't you answer? Did you get beaten to the point of deafness? Lee JaHa just asking for their name made him angry and raised his fist. But now he was no longer as weak as before, so he quickly dodged aside. And then also gave him a promotion. Blow to the face. The whole huge body cried out in pain and collapsed to the ground. This guy fainted, making Lee JaHa look puzzled. Just asking about the name made me nervous. Is that so? After finishing the fight, he went straight to the main door of the cherry tree house. The security guard recognized him immediately. It turned out to be the little guy who was here a few days ago. What are you doing here? Do you want to eat? Right below. Is this how you welcome guests? After hearing that, the fat man roared and tried to fight again. But for him, this is not Lee JaHa of that year again. He bent down slightly and grabbed that unpleasant face firmly. Then he pressed his head to the ground to show his authority. The situation remained the same. That guy at that time couldn't stand it anymore and fainted. The customer service here is really bad. I don't even see what their hospitality spirit is like. Lamb. After finishing speaking, he opened the door and stepped inside. The surrounding space was very noisy due to the sounds of eating, drinking and congratulating each other. To attract everyone's attention, he shouted loudly to show his authority. "What are you guys doing? Please come out and receive the guests quickly. Even though you're very busy serving guests, everyone has to stop and look." It's not just the servants. But the guests all had the same feeling. Lee JaHa's face right now looked so suggestive that everyone wanted to grab his head. It seemed like they still didn't understand anything, so he had to repeat what you just said to make it clear. Some servants have recognized the male protagonist as the one who was beaten yesterday. Is it him? Could it be that he has been beaten to the point of being stupid? The two security guards immediately ran out to negotiate. "You seem so arrogant, don't think this is where you want to go." Lee JaHa replied in a superior manner, clearly as if then you still have to ask why I came here to drink. Did you think you came here to drink tea and talk? After hearing this, these guys looked annoyed and wanted to fight again, but another person spoke up to stop. I also saw who the guy who raised his voice was. It turned out that he was the owner of the cherry tree Cha Sung Tae. "We can't chase you away. I'm going, after all, I'm a guest coming to enjoy the wine." He just spoke and also sounded very rude, making the male lead squint his eyes in annoyance. He turned around and kicked the other two servants. "Did you hear clearly? When Tunhi comes from the inn, prepare a delicious table for him. He doesn't come here very often, so you guys should serve him well. Listen to everything." They all respectfully listened to the owner's words. Another guy also ran over to lead him up to the second floor to the wine table. Opening the door and entering, he asked what kind of wine he wanted to drink. "Do you think I've never been to a luxurious place like this? Please bring the most expensive one." His voice was mixed with a bit of contempt, so the second guy looked uncomfortable. The male lead didn't care and just sat down. "Down right away. Looks like you don't like being looked down upon by my little second brother or something." After the tea, I made him bring out the strongest wine to enjoy. The other guy was angry inside, trying to suppress his anger out of respect for the job that Cha Sung Tae had assigned. He didn't want the couple anymore and asked to wait here for a bit. Lee JaHa seemed pleased because he couldn't get it that year. Treated like this. A moment later, the wine tray with all the delicious dishes was placed in front of him. Holding the wine bottle in his hand, he did not forget to ask the maid what kind it was. "Hash." The woman next to her immediately softened her voice and explained the origin and distillation method. Then, she gently picked up the wine bottle to pour into the glass. "I heard that Chaeyong was also there. Is this right?" Lee JaHa immediately inquired. "My boss will be mad. I heard rumors that you were beaten to a pulp because of your involvement in her affairs. It seems that all the people in Ilyong know me. Are you beaten? Don't worry about that, just bring her here." Hearing this order, the woman had to sigh deeply. In the end I had to stand up and ask permission. And not forget to promise to pass these words on to the owner. Now that I was alone, I leisurely enjoyed that delicious wine. This color and flavor at first glance, he knew he was a third-rate scoundrel. Even though he scolded the shopkeeper for being so rude, he still had to take a sip to sweeten his voice. Before he could finish the cup, he came from outside. There was a lot of noise. A burly security guard kicked open the door and reminded him that his status as a second child was like the male lead. How could he meet Chaeyong? After hearing those insults, but he still acts calm. "Is it wrong for you guys to go to the bar to enjoy good wine? If it's not wrong, why do you keep talking like that? If I'm not mistaken, you're the lowly guard Dong Guok, right? I'll buy you a cup, so quickly come here and pour it for me." Because he was a bit surprised, this guy sat down and asked, "Was it because we hit you on the head last time that made you stupid? To this extent, right?" But the male lead didn't care about those words, he just calmly and proactively offered him a drink. After that, he brought it to his mouth as if nothing happened. "Don't make trouble anymore. It's okay to hide after drinking." But it seems like these warnings don't have any weight at all. Seeing his reckless attitude, Dong Guok slammed the cup down. He threw the glass of wine in front of his eyes and raised his hand to slap him. But Lee JaHa dodged aside and firmly stuck the chopstick into the guard's palm. He felt pain and frowned. The male lead still showed his careless attitude. "Why do you have to think like that, Dong Guok? I just want to drink some good wine in peace and see Chae-yong before leaving. Why do you guys keep coming and biting me like dogs waiting for a bone? Speaking of which, the person who needed to come has arrived." Chae-yong opened the door and walked in. But this beauty's face looked like she was not very satisfied. Saw the injured security guard. I also reminded him to quickly go out so he could talk more easily. Understanding what the beauty meant, the male lead quickly pulled out the chopsticks in his hand. "That's right, go away Dong Guok." That big, black, smelly guy was so scared that he ran away immediately. Chae-yong, now that no one was bothering him, took the initiative to sit down in front of him. Seeing the beauty in his heart, his face now looks very excited. "Is there something funny going on in your family that you keep smiling like that? Why am I like this? Do I also need to control my emotions in a place like this? Do you think this is funny or do you think our bodyguards and bosses will stand still? I came here myself so I won't charge extra. But this wine is it's not cheap at all and there's also money for medicine for Mr. Dong Guok's wound." Chae-yong also seems to have good intentions when he wants the male lead to finish drinking a cup and leave right before things get worse. But he doesn't. Paying attention to those words, I just kept looking more closely at this woman's beautiful face. Then she started to affirm that no matter how much gold, silver, and jewels you bring, I won't sleep with you. Even though I work at a bar, that doesn't mean anyone can go to bed and I'm not that type of girl. Put down the glass of wine and Lee JaHa also asked permission to speak frankly. "I never said that I was looking for money to sleep with you, I simply wanted to listen to the instrument and sing. You also said that you sold your art, not your body, right? The gossip outside is just because I like to gossip. I don't want that and I don't have the money to do so." Receiving such strong responses so Chae-yong couldn't speak up at all. "The reason I came to you was just to clarify this." After saying that, he immediately kicked me out. But it seemed like this beauty still didn't understand anything, so the male lead asked again. As things were getting here, loud noises could be heard from outside. The three tall guards continued to come with the purpose of dealing with Lee JaHa. The shortest among them called his name as a warning. "It seems like you came here to want to die, right? Come out and settle it with us once and for all. If your filthy blood gets out here, I'll be in big trouble." Lee JaHa still doesn't care and continues pour some wine. "At least let me take a sip before I leave." After hearing that, their faces turned black and they just wanted to strangle me to death. "I'm sure you guys are confident too. Can torture me at any time, right?" Hearing these words, they fell silent. Then the whole group burst into laughter. "Chae-yong, please come out quickly. It seems like this is the last cup of wine. Drink your last drink quickly." They expressed admiration because he was a good gentleman who dared to puff out his chest and call a beautiful woman out to serve him personally. If I knew him to this extent, I would have hit him a little harder. This time it seems that the good guy Lee JaHa won't feel unfair when being ganged up anymore, right? The whole group kept discussing how to torture the male lead in the happiest way. But he was still gentle and continued to invite them to have a few more drinks. The big brother looked confused because I didn't think you could be this brave. "Okay, since you're done, come out with us quickly." But the male lead still doesn't care and just keeps pouring over. Just keep every time he drank it, he felt thoughtful. But after just a few glasses, he was already disgusted. This damn thing is still good wine. The guards at this time were all disgusted. Is there any other words to say? Why is this guy like that, or did I hit him too hard the other day and his brain fell out? As for Lee JaHa, he's out of alcohol at this point. Then he put down the vase and asked about the other guys. "I just want to ask one thing, do you guys see me as a joke?" The guy in the middle immediately replied that he was nothing more than an idiot. They also admitted that they didn't understand that the beating the day before didn't hurt, so why did they want to come and get beaten again today? This time, Lee JaHa's sinister laugh rang out. The remaining guys were on standby to pull out their swords if there was any movement. Asked again and again but still no answer, but the laughter continued. Gradually grew louder. The four looked at each other and laughed heartily. Closing their mouths, the other two pulled out their swords and pointed them straight forward. The entire tray of wine was tossed by Lee JaHa. Up in the air. The security guards lost concentration and fell backwards. So he conveniently kicked the table straight at them. No one had time to do it. Nothing. The people cried out in pain. The male lead then slowly approached and stomped on the table. He continued to smile very sinisterly and looked down. The eyes of those guys are no longer scary anymore. Do you still look like a stupid person or a clown? From outside, the maid rushed over to check the situation. But it seemed it was not like what she thought. Inside, Lee JaHa was still slapping her. That group of guards had a good fight. He beat them until they couldn't make a sound. Min still couldn't understand what was happening in front of her eyes. Knowing that there were people watching, so he asked in a low voice. Please bring me this third-rate waste wine. I'm sorry, but that wine is not third-rate, it's a delicious wine. Grade. Do you think I'm a fool? I've tried my best not to hit a woman who doesn't know martial arts. But at least you should think carefully before saying anything, old woman. However, he was angry, but he couldn't do anything, so he left immediately. Looking at the shadow trying to leave, he just wanted to give it a good beating. Then, because he was a girl, he told himself to ignore it. Looking down at these three bad boys, none of them can be at peace. The main character smiles with satisfaction at the ending of this group. Why don't you just crow and continue smiling? In the clown lord's face. Things seemed to have gotten worse, so the shop owner had to call more people. According to Cha Sung Tae, there were a lot of servants with swords in their hands. This guy's face is no longer as dirty as it was at first. Seeing him, the male lead doesn't show any signs of fear or remorse. The boss still remains silent to observe everything around the room. He glanced everywhere to start calculating. The dining table that took a lot of preparation and was very expensive was all destroyed. In addition, all three guards were injured. Beat him to a pulp. Finally he had to raise his voice to warn. Are you crazy, Lee JaHa? If it's like this, then I have to leave my life here. You really want to kill me here, right? Father Sung Tae did not hesitate and immediately agreed. The guards were eager to jump in to give him a beating. They were just waiting for their master's orders before they would attack. Instant shirt. But this guy still hasn't made any move. Too saddened by the destroyed equipment, so he rushed in alone. Probably someone with some martial arts skills, so he wanted to show himself I'm prestigious in front of my juniors. But this situation was unexpected, when the male lead already had a bottle of wine in his hand. He immediately knocked on his head so hard that the bottle broke. The surrounding debris kept shooting at the juniors behind. Cha Sung Tae was in pain, so he had to step back. The subordinates immediately went over to ask about the old master's health. Today's Lady Lee JaHa is no longer the same as yesterday's Lee JaHa. He started to raise his voice to see if there was anyone else who wanted to come forward and surrender his life. As he spoke, he also showed his light. His eyes were full of murderous intent. Just looking at them didn't dare do anything. The old shop owner was now angry and spoke up. You Lee JaHa is really tired of living. As he spoke, he also pulled out the sword in his hand to take revenge. But he immediately responded and wanted to think carefully before things got worse. If you pull out that sword, death will definitely be in your hands. Father Sung Tae heard these words and became scared. He knew that those words were not just a joke. In the end, in a few short days, what happened to it? The most cunning person in Ilyong town. But can't you guess what's going on? Do you think they flattened it under the pile? Are these dishes due to bad luck? When the shop owner heard this, he also looked down at his junior's miserable appearance. Do you think I'm lucky with your eyes like that? It's true that the male protagonist played this psychological trick, leaving his opponent speechless to resist. If you don't want to die, always think carefully before acting. Otherwise, just withdraw, find out and accept the consequences. Even though he was in pain and angry, Cha Sung Tae was also very calm. Now he was feeling that he couldn't keep up with his movements. Then I thought of a few confusing things in my head. Then I asked all my subordinates to go out to deal with them alone. He started putting away his sword and urgently talking. What are you doing? Planning something doesn't seem like you're going to leave right after drinking. Are you trying to make me kneel and apologize, right? I heard it's okay. If you do that, Then surely that guy Yoga will come? If you say so, I will invite the master to come here. I asked about his wound. I also know that I'm lucky that I haven't completely lost my eyesight. Is that true? And when I was beaten by you guys, I thought I was going to die. Because there was no other way, Father Sung Tae called the servant. He asked to prepare another clean room, more orderly to receive guests. If you don't intend to kill the guys over there, then allow us to take them for treatment. With the same people living in the same town, killing each other is not good, right? The male lead still doesn't understand what he intends to do to him. Why does this guy still look so indifferent even though I caused this mess? After thinking about it, I also agree permission to take people out. After that, a few other guards took them for treatment. Both of them went to another room to chat. While cleaning their wounds, Father Sung Tae also blamed Nam for being rude. He was also curious about his changes in the past few days. But Lee JaHa's eyes only looked towards the wine bottle in front of him. Understanding the customer's intention, the shop owner picked it up and took the initiative to pour it. I invite you to have a cup of wine. This is the best wine in this restaurant. As he spoke, he also continuously advertised about the origin of this thing. Because he is a longtime alcoholic, the male lead knows that this is not good wine at all. In the beginning, you guys brought me a third-rate bad wine, right? No. They must have accidentally brought it to you by mistake. After all, it's a business, so we have to focus on profits. To keep myself safe, I did ask this guy to drink alcohol first to avoid being poisoned. He understood, so his mouth immediately dried up without a single drop left. It's not clear what else this scheming guy is planning. Because the wine was a bit strong, so he had to take a sip to make Lee JaHa swallow his saliva. You are already so good at martial arts. Why have I never seen you show it off before? I heard the question, but you didn't know how to answer it. Reasonable words. Actually, I have to restrain it because my father has forbidden it. This response makes Cha Sung Tae feel very ridiculous. He immediately proactively apologized because the actions of his subordinates were basically because they insulted the previous person. That's why I understood it like that. The words were too cliché, so I immediately put down the cup. Do you apologize and sympathize? But you always make things difficult for me like this. If you guys keep being like this, it's starting to make me very frustrated. The look in your eyes makes Cha Sung Tae tremble in fear. Do we need to give the broken person a few more ribs to fix it? This time, the shop owner had no choice but didn't know what to do anymore. In the end, he threw the chair and quickly knelt down and apologized repeatedly. This is the first time I've done this. So I hope you'll forgive me just once. This action has been seen by Chaehyung. She doesn't understand why her older brother became like that. Kneeling down and kowtowing in front of a faceless brat. Why is his nose injured? Could it be that Cha Sung Tae couldn't fight that guy? When he saw the beauty coming, he also started shouting to make the shop owner understand. Chaehyung still didn't know. Hurry up. Knowing what was going on, she took the initiative to pour the wine right away. But the first person to receive the cup was not Lee JaHa, so Cha Sung Tae pointed immediately. Not only that, but he also forced him to sit close to serve him. The atmosphere was so terribly silent that only one person could hear it. The sound of pouring wine. Holding the cup in his hand, Lee JaHa turned to look at the pretty face a few times. He softly called the beauty's name and heard a sweet yes. Continue to make a glass so that I would be in the mood to gossip. Chaehyung was shocked by the male lead's cruelty. You must know that a little guy like me also longs to be loved once. After hearing that, Chaehyung was stunned. Everyone thought they were too drunk and were talking nonsense. But Lee JaHa still calmly said countless meaningful sentences. My love will never be for you, so go away. You're ruining my mood for enjoying good wine. The indignant words made the woman look dumbfounded at her master. Cha Sung Tae repeatedly reminded, didn't you hear anything? Don't hurry. So even though you don't want to, you still have to say hello. Then slowly step back to let the two continue talking. He saw the number one beauty in the castle walk out. There are so many thoughts. Just hearing that, I know that she must be very miserable. The male lead is now taciturnly reminding the shop owner. Stop being disrespectful to me and especially the narrow eyes. That's making me extremely uncomfortable. But I thought it was a joke, so he kept grinning, making me angrier. Looking through Cha Sung-tae's eyes, he started to cringe. Both sides looked at each other with countless opposing thoughts. The shop owner didn't understand how to respond. Knowing he couldn't punch each other back, he had to bow down and apologize. After that, the two continued to drink and confide. When will the new person's master come? Lee JaHa spoke up out of anger. If he was entertaining the masters from the Black Cat Union in the Pear Flower, it would be very difficult to come here immediately. Black Cat Union? Those are people who have wasted their consciences. Only when there is approval from the Black Cat Union can a new association be established in this town of Ilyong. That is why the master is trying to receive favor from them. What you mean is that even if you subdue your master, the Black Cat Union will still be involved in this matter. Cha Sung-tae doesn't know what else to say because of this. It's been like that from the beginning. The main character angrily put down the wine cup and looked annoyed. So what do you want me to do, or do you want me to sip some of this wine and then brush my ass and go home? Do you think this is the end of the matter? Of course not, but if that were the case, what would you do? What if your master and all his subordinates returned to my school? The Black Cat Union won't be able to interfere anymore. Do you think they will accept that easily? Lee JaHa calculated that he would have to establish a sect in Ilyong town, so he would recruit them to do it on the way. But after the other guy heard it, he didn't really believe it. Opportunity, I've already prepared it, the rest depends on your decision. If you think the Black Cat Union can defeat me, then you and your master can just fight to the end, otherwise, don't. Come back to be my disciple. Father Sung-tae really doesn't understand why the male lead changed to such a degree. How could a small second child let go of the founder without the slightest worry? Create a sect? Not seeing what the other person said, he took the initiative to stand up and go out. The guy's face looked very happy because he thought he was about to avoid a debt. Don't think that you or think I'm running away. He didn't care and answered yes right away. Your face is very suggestive right now. This guy had no choice but to lower his voice to apologize. Please come back safely, I will only bill you for the alcohol you drank today. Since you are a long-time debtor, the male lead will definitely never pay. When you get outside, there are countless subordinates waiting for him. But it seems they don't dare to do anything. The male lead has called out to ask this low-class group to step aside. No one dared to speak up and have any nonsense attitude. As soon as I went downstairs, curses rang out non-stop. And the saying always pointed to the name to find out where Lee JaHa was. How dare he touch me with that dirty hand, I'll have to strangle him to death. Having said that, he also spoke up to ask how his health was at that time. Because he was so angry, the fat guy clenched his fist and rushed straight in. With just a light wave of his hand, this guy's front teeth were blown away in an instant. The huge body was thrown to a corner. As expected, seeing this situation, no one dared to say anything. Everyone looked at him in fear with a stupid expression. You should have explained the situation to this guy because he's lying there again. How can I expect anything from you retards? Just like that, the male lead left easily beyond the guard's imagination. Tonight, my second cousin is very satisfied with this castle. Even though it's bitter, no one does anything about it. He couldn't do anything, so he just suppressed the anger in his heart. So his wish to be served by the beauty Chaehyung was fulfilled. He continued to wander in the quiet night. While wandering around, a place it's okay to keep an eye on anything. On the sign there was a dragon's head burial that looked very eye-catching. He stopped to think for a moment about something. If you want to fight against the Black Cat Gang, then first, we must have a weapon. Inside, the sounds of forging continued to echo continuously. Many blacksmiths are hard at work making sharp iron swords to serve those in need. While dozing off, shop assistant Gwak Yonggai also noticed the late customer. Is this the inn's second lady? Are you here to repay your debt? Knowing that the reason was shopping, he thought he was buying a sickle to cut grass and harvest rice. I plan to fight against the Black Cat, so I want to temporarily find a pair of weapons. I heard that you just got stabbed. I told you a few days ago, don't let the temporary anger cloud your mind. The male lead doesn't care about the advice, he wants to temporarily buy a long sword or just a small sharp knife. Okay. Are you planning on using all of that? It's simply my preference, so why not respect it a little? After listening, the shop owner reminded the servants to bring out the black and white dragon sword and the cloud dragon dagger to offer. Whatever you say, I still really like your grandfather's chicken noodle soup. Why did you come? How can your life be that bad? Hearing that Lee JaHa didn't want to talk about this, he decided to tell him about the history of the formation of Volam. Even though he didn't want to move his arms and legs, this guy kept complaining, making the male lead uncomfortable. Looks like he still doesn't know my talent. While they were about to fight, the workers brought out the necessary things. The shop owner asked him to run out and take a look. Choose which dish you like. But without looking at anything, the male lead asked to wrap it up and bring it home. Is it all? Then give me 90 dong. This price is too high, so I feel dissatisfied. I treated you a lot because we are in the same town. Because I had enough money, so Lee JaHa planned to give me 50 Vietnamese dongs to temporarily rent it out and pay it back after the job was done. Is the person thinking about borrowing or something different from stealing in broad daylight? So the two of them kept arguing loudly because the buying and selling was not reasonable. Because it was so noisy, the most skilled blacksmith here had to run to stop it. Mr. I am Kum Chu Liang, the master blacksmith of Long Tu Tang. Seeing the senior come out, everyone had to bow respectfully. Gwak Yonggai hastily explained the incident. This kid is serious. Against the Black Cat Gang, and it wanted to rent 3 weapons for 50 dong. He immediately recognized that the male lead was from the inn in town. It's been a long time since I enjoyed a bowl of chicken pho. It belonged to your grandfather, but now that item has long been lost. I also told him the same, but he didn't seem to believe it. Gwak Yonggai whispered. So you plan to cause trouble? Fight with them? If it's because they're causing trouble, I'll give you a helping hand. But if they still don't listen, come here and I'll protect you. After all, I'm your grandfather's crony. Nope, don't make a big deal out of anything. Just looking at an old acquaintance, I have so many thoughts. I remember in his past life he wasn't the type of person to say this, or is it true that in the future disfigured because I change, right? I really appreciate your willingness to help, but I want to handle the problem my own way. If that's the case, what are you planning to do? Why don't we gather a team of all the blacksmiths in this area and form the Iron Dragon Sect? Established a sect? What are you talking about? If we establish a sect here, we will collect more taxes from you, and that is why I am planning to establish an alliance in Tran Nyat Duong to ensure that those will not interfere. And the dragons will belong to the School of Life. And the blacksmiths will be called the Iron Dragon Sect. Architects will belong to the Hammer and Sickle Sect. We will gather all the remaining professions to create diverse sects in the alliance. After listening, everyone thought Lee JaHa was crazy because he was beaten from a few days ago. We will not have to pay any additional fees, nor will the sects be on the door compared to other sects. Our goal is to ensure that not a penny of anyone's money is lost. Although at first glance it's quite silly, but it's okay, so what will this union be called? Seeing Chuliang's sincerity, he continued to answer. A place for lowly people and dirty people at the bottom of society. Its name will be Hao Fai. After listening, the master blacksmith's face turned black because of the name that doesn't pay off at all. It's interesting to see how an ordinary brat tries to forge an alliance. Are you confident that you will be able to control all my brothers? Lee JaHa boldly declared that he had management talent since childhood, so there was no need to worry. Kum Chu Liang felt confident, so he asked his family to give him all the weapons. Then he also reminded and advised many things. We will continue to talk if you return here alive. After receiving all the weapons, you will also return to continue practice. A few small noises were heard around, but it seemed inaudible. Lee JaHa was very focused on cultivating his knowledge of martial arts. But he finally discovered it. There is movement. A lot of people are using sparrows to dig something right in front of the house. I don't understand what they are trying to do at Lee JaHa's place of business. The second guy, the brother of the 3 brothers of the Jew family, has already seen the male lead. Return? I'm still planning to finish digging this grave and then carry you back there. As soon as he finished speaking, he slammed the knife down to show his strength. Quickly sit down, you damned little brat. While I was sleeping, this group of people came to make trouble. I'm not sure if Lee JaHa is planning on twisting his legs or arms. Today is a day of great joy for us brothers. We has been approved by the Black Cat Gang to establish a sect in Nyat Duong town. But you, that scoundrel who doesn't even know how to cook a bowl of chicken noodle soup, is causing trouble in Tanhua. Please tell us how we should handle this. Before you finish digging the grave, tell us why we should spare your poor life." After listening, Lee JaHa smiled, making the other person uncomfortable. This made him even angrier. "Even at this point, can you still smile? If you say so, will I have to cry?" Seeing such a rude attitude, he quickly pulled out a knife and threw it straight in front of the male lead. But as he kept waving his hands, the dagger was nowhere to be seen. "Since when? But it's already in your hands?" Turning to look, a cry of pain rang out. His dagger stabbed straight into his palm. "So let me tell you this, I won't hesitate for you to live, you just need to give me a reason." Now Ju-Igel understands why people are talking about Lee JaHa's strength in just a few days so quickly. Right nearby, his subordinates announced that the grave had been dug. He immediately reminded his subordinates to dig a few meters deeper for peace of mind. Having finished speaking, he looked straight at the male lead in a meaningful way. "You must have achieved some kind of enlightenment, right?" When the congratulatory voice rang out, the other hand was about to poke him in the eye. An action faster than a wink appeared in an instant. He continued to grimace and his face was covered in blood. Shot it all out on the tea table. Lee JaHa quickly grabbed his remaining right arm. He continued to thrust the knife down as if it was even. Because the pain had not gone away, the pain returned. So he shouted, "Who did you say you were digging a grave for?" Ju-Igel explained that it was just for show. That reason only increased the torture that the male lead was about to do. He immediately pulled out his knife and asked one more time, "Okay, tell me the reason why you should live." But it seems like his mind is not very quick, so he doesn't know what to say. "Can't think of a reason yet? Do you think there's any reason for me to let a bastard like you live?" Not only does he specialize in smuggling, but he also outright kills those who displease us, even our acquaintances are among them. Ju-Igel shouted loudly and warned that if he lost his life today, the brothers as well as the Black Cat Gang will not forgive Lee JaHa. Just as he was about to call the male lead a bastard, he spit out a shot that made him stop. Another pain ran up from his spine. To the heart. The knife that people carry around to attack others is stuck straight in their chest. "I asked you to give me the reason why I spared your life, but you call it a threat?" Before he could answer, this guy's life was reincarnated into another life. As expected, you can't joke with the same ghost. The digging sounds continued without stopping. At least it caught my attention. These jerks are still so enthusiastic, aren't they? Then Lee JaHa had to remind them to stop because it was useless. The whole group turned around and were panicked because their master had been worshipping King Yan without even realizing it. Surprised why, he was just playing with a knife and accidentally slipped his hand. The masked guys don't know what to do anymore. The leader has started to ask about his identity. "What nonsense are you talking about? Of course I'm just a little maid here. Don't ask any more questions, send me your veil so I can see if I know any of you." After speaking, all three of the other guys immediately took off their masks. They hastily introduced themselves as passers-by working for hire at Wat Tan Lao. "Okay, let's choose quickly. I will let all three of you die in the same hole. Or leave one guy behind and the other two will return to your hometown." One of you hastily asked for permission to retire early to return to your hometown to live. They promised that if their lives were spared, they would never go to places like Wat Tan Lao again. Hearing this gave them such a headache. The male lead signaled for them to be allowed to go home. "A guy. If I stay, I'll beg for a job as a kitchen assistant. If I lose my job at Wat Tan Lao, I'll probably starve to death. Do you know how to cook well and make chicken pho? This is a simple dish. I'm confident that I can cook the best chicken pho. Anyway, I've already forgiven your death, so from now on I can manage it myself." The remaining guy quickly knelt down to thank God for being spared. With nothing else to do, he went back inside to rest for a while. As he was about to enter the room, it seemed like something happened. Someone has been secretly here for a long time. The male lead immediately asked why he came here. "You really killed Ju-Igel, right?" Father Sung Tae is curious. "You think he can kill me, but your eyes are okay?" "This is just one of many parts of my plan. I reported that I had injured my eye and then sneaked away while the healers weren't looking. If I didn't do that, then I'm probably already in that acupuncture point. You think I'm also very useful and quick-witted, right? Listening to the song, Lee JaHa didn't pay attention anymore and just praised him for being a person who knows the right time. Sung Tae thanked him for sparing his life and also asked him what else he wanted to do if he continued to live. Anyway, you've already killed Juigel, so how do you plan to deal with the remaining two? It's very simple for me to eliminate both of them. If we let them live, the people in Nyat Duong will no longer suffer. He also warned that the name Chu Liang is the most cruel and dangerous person in this town, so you have to be extremely careful while fighting. Then the male lead started to raise his voice again to order some things. Go buy me some things to do. Stop drinking because I can't stand it anymore. We're talking about something important, why are you like this? Thinking like that, it seems like if he can't do this little thing, his life will be over. Doesn't this whole inn take out an egg or two to eat? Just looking at Lee JaHa's expression, I can tell there's nothing left in the house. What a great hotel. I'll go buy it, but first give me some money. Lee JaHa shook his head furiously because he didn't have any money left. This place used to be famous for its chicken pho, but is it this shabby? Just go buy a lot of snacks, and if you like to eat anything, you can buy more. If you're afraid of too much, leave it there for breakfast tomorrow. Look at it, it's so great that the male lead seemed annoyed. He immediately called back to remind him of a few things. Are you walking? Don't you hurry up? Sure enough, Lee JaHa's craving for alcohol was so bad that he couldn't stand it. More. Sung Tae's current situation is already very bitter, but there's nothing he can do. I really didn't expect that I would become a servant for that despicable little guy. Lee JaHa's voice kept saying, hurry up, put your feet up. So upset that the owner of the bar put his feet up on his neck to relieve his headache. After that, Sung Tae brought back a bunch of delicious food. It seems like this guy has been eating until now. I haven't eaten yet, so I eat non-stop without stopping. While I'm still snacking, the male protagonist looks bored. You should eat a lot and buy food with your own precious money. Then I'm eating very deliciously. It's delicious, but the money is made from taking advantage of young girls. And selling that damn third-grade wine at a first-grade price is of course delicious. Having worked as a bouncer there for many years, you must have earned quite a bit, right? Listening to these wolf scare words, but the other guy couldn't wait any longer, his mood went down. He started to get the wine bottle and filled the cup. Then he drank vigorously as if he had never drank before. And then sighed again as if he had a lot to say. Lee JaHa spoke up, is something wrong? Are you angry at me? That's right, I'm going crazy because the food is so dirty that I can't eat it. It's obvious that if I spend money to buy it, I'll have to accept it. Not only that, Juigel is dead if you come to him. The Hao Cat Gang won't leave it alone. If you're so worried, then bury your head in practicing martial arts. If you keep crying like this, that's not the solution. Sooner or later he will die of depression. Listening to Sung Tae's face, he started to lie and become indescribably angry. There were so many thoughts in his head that he felt like he was going crazy. The male lead also darkened his face and let out a threatening sentence to relieve boredom. Wanting to be beaten again. Why must it be like that to make people less curious about so many things? The surrounding space became quiet again. It was strangely quiet. The owner of the castle himself knew that he couldn't eat the male lead, so he immediately lowered his voice. You're guaranteed to kill all of the Hao Cat Gang's henchmen, right? Okay. Finish this cup and I'll go kill Cho Ilsum. Cho Sampyeong's whereabouts are unknown right now, so let's just deal with the other guy first. Why can you say so? That's as easy as eating porridge. We have to kill anyway, so it's better to just deal with it quickly. The problem is Cho Sampyeong, we don't know where he is. Cha Sung-T also knew through some news that that guy was about to return. If that's the case, then when he's here, you'll deal with that guy. I'm Cha Sung-T and my ability can completely crush him. I'm sure he heard those words. Lee JaHa didn't really believe this column. The other person took a sip of wine and then talked back. My eyes hurt so much right now, so I'm afraid it's a bit difficult. It's so messed up that I have to ask again and again. If you can do it, accept it. Compared to giving him a chance to counterattack, I'm more interested in a raid. Have you never heard of the legend of Cha Sung-T's surprise attack? If we kill the 3 brothers of the Cho family, will you be able to manage those 3 castles? Cha Sung-ti continued to dance. I'm a person with many years of experience as a shepherd, so I don't have to worry. After hearing those words, Lee JaHa got very angry. Because there are still many people who make a living. It's because it's a bar, so we can't get rid of that place. Pay the hard-working people well, don't cheat and sell alcohol. Also, take care of the people who work for you. Sick people and those who want to go back to their hometown, let them go home. Father Sung-ti also replied that such things are relatively difficult. But the male lead insisted that he must do it, otherwise he would not helping. Why do I have to do such a good job with those servants? Because that would be easier than Cha Sung-ti being raided by me, right? Sure enough, when he heard these threats, he began to be afraid. Lee JaHa reminded the other person to be careful with their business. If they were not kind, they would let him become friends with the Cho guys. There. So he started to fight to avoid doing other things. The food was so bad I couldn't swallow it at all. It was so boring that I was threatened with being beaten to death, so it was better to go to the mountains and hide. If it's that annoying, then managing the bar probably isn't that bad. Looks like I have to give that job to someone else. He started dancing again. I'm Sung-ti, I'm still too young to went up the mountain to hide. I really didn't know what to say to this guy. The male lead didn't say anything for now, he just concentrated on drinking wine. Then he stood up and stripped off all his clothes. Sung-ti was scared and thought he was trying to do something to him. But it wasn't Lee JaHa who just wanted to change his clothes a bit. I'll wear your clothes, so quickly take them off. Damn, you're really a blatant thief. Even though he was so upset, he still gritted his teeth and did it. I'm Cha Sung-ti, so be careful not to tear your clothes. Please wear clothes and go kill that guy Cho Il-sum. Then he also complimented the male lead's way of working. You're clever, with the appearance of a beggar entering the bar, it's too obvious. It's a good idea to exchange. But if you wear those beggar clothes, no one will let you in for much longer and you'll definitely get your ass kicked. Just like that, both sides exchange clothes and fixed my hair to look like. Finally, I went to take a shower to avoid smelling like a poor person. How'd I look? Is Sung-ti like a rich boy who plays happily? I had to ask again, do you look like a poor and despicable beggar to me now? I really like the feeling of being the boss, but not the boss like I am now. In your house, it's really like the saying that beauty is better because of rice silk than poop. Wearing a beggar's clothes, you look like a rag, but my face is bright and handsome. If you knew this, you shouldn't normally dress in such a poor way, right? It was so itchy that Lee JaHa knocked because of his rude actions. Is it true that if we relax a little, we'll be as rude as before? Do you need me to give you another beating so you know what to do? Having finished speaking, he reminded him that before finishing work, he should reheat the food and then buy a few more liters to drink. Sung-ti went down to wash the servants, praising the male lead's handsomeness. Just like that, the male lead walks around trying to look very similar to him. This guy is always watching without blinking in a meaningful way. There are so many thoughts in his head that he doesn't dare to say in words. May bad luck always come to you, that wretched Lee JaHa. A moment later, he arrived at the flower house where Cho Il-sum was sitting. A number of servants ran out to greet him. Always ask where he is. Are you looking for the owner? Can you tell me where you come from? I am a member of the Black Cat Gang. Please quickly take me to meet Cho Il-sum. The Black Cat Gang knows, but what is your background so I can tell you? I heard some questions like questioning Lee JaHa. I was so upset that I gave him a few shots. Asking something like a prisoner, please show me the way quickly. The servant covered his face in pain and mumbled apologies for his rude attitude. He was in a hurry, leading the way and pointing out what the combo at the shop includes. Some servants inside are very curious because they don't know who the tycoon is following. Just like that, the two went up to the second floor without realizing it. I'm having trouble. Please wait a moment and I'll go tell the owner of the building. While I'm waiting, I don't know what to do. So I'll just find a comfortable place to sit. To look around. This place looks more sparkling and beautiful than the place where the beautiful Chaehyung works. If you want to establish a gang but have to go through this black cat, it's really cumbersome. Thinking about it here, that unfortunate guy has received news from the servant. He opened the door and walked out and had to adjust his clothes to be polite. Even though he didn't know who it was, Cho Il-sum still greeted him and thought, well, What's the reason for a brat who hasn't cleared his nose to come here at such a late hour? And yet he dares to sit in my crown prince's chair, and to see his master enter. But you don't even stand up. Cho Il-sum finally spoke up. I don't know what role you play in the Black Cat Gang. Who told you that I am a member of the Black Cat Gang? Isn't that what you said before? Do you really not know me? Are you sure this is the first time we've met? After listening, he began to observe more closely and also realized. You are the guy selling chicken noodle soup at the inn in the town. See, if Lee JaHa didn't deny it, he also started to get angry. How can you still be alive? Didn't my younger brother already kill you? Is this younger brother the bad Juigal? You probably haven't heard the news yet. I beat him to a pulp before he was here.